Hey everyone! In this video, I'll show you how to effortlessly save and organize all the highlights from your Kindle, from every book you've read, directly into Notion, perfectly organized. We will store the highlights, create a title using AI, and link it to our book database. Let's get started. When you visit read.amazon.com/notebook, you can see all of the books you have read on your Kindle with all of the highlights you saved. Unfortunately, there isn't a simple way to export your Kindle highlights to another format, and getting them into Notion can be even trickier. Today I will show you how to do exactly that, almost fully automated. We will start in Notion where we will create two databases. One to store our sources, like in this case books, and one to store our saved highlights. For the source database, we will create the properties name, which is for our book name, and description. Also, we create a multi-select field that will specify which type of medium our source is. Also, we want year of release, author, and a URL of the source if available. Now, to make use of the USave LLM functionality, we will add a description to our description property. By adding a star as the first letter, we tell the AI that this field is required. Then, we basically just tell it what we want to fill the field with. You can see this as a prompt, just like you would use for GPT, for example. And this is exactly what makes USave so flexible. You can play around and tweak your prompts to achieve your desired results. This is it for the sources database. We can now go to our highlights database, where our highlights will be stored. Here we only need three fields: a title for our highlight, a location position field that stores the page number, for example, and a relational property to link it to our sources database. Again, to make full use of the LLM, we add descriptions to our database properties. For the title, we just tell the LLM to keep it short. For the reference position, we add a prompt and make the field required as well. You can find all of the prompts in the video description. That's it for our Notion setup. Let's go back to our Kindle highlights. Again, you can find them on read.amazon.com/notebook. For our first book called Atomic Habits, we want to save 42 highlights, also the so-called locations from each highlight. So, after installing USave and connecting it to Notion, we will add our two databases. First, our sources database, and then the highlights database. Then, we create our first source entry. We open the Amazon page of our book. On that page, all of the information that we need should be available. The LLM will find it. Then, we simply open USave and select the single view of our sources database. We don't need any content on the page, so we leave it empty. Then we just click Autofill, and our fields will be filled. Remember, we prompted to not use more than 2 sentences for the description, which is exactly what we got. Also, it correctly identified book as the media type for this source. Then we simply press the Save icon to save the entry to our database. And as we can see, it appears in our sources database with all of the fields we specified, including year, author, URL, and so on. Since I also use this database for books I want to read in the future, I will add a status property to keep track of that. You could also add a personal rating field or whatever you like. Since I have already read the book, I will mark the status as done. The next thing we do is getting the actual highlights of the book to our highlights database. So, we open USave and go to the bulk view of our highlights database. Here we see a table with the database properties as columns. Notice that the actual content of the highlight is not inside our database, which we have done on purpose. In this case, we want to save the highlights on the database entry pages themselves. So we can check the box to include the page content, and we can see a prompt field opening up. Just like in our database descriptions, we use this prompt just like we would prompt GPT, for example. In this case, we tell it to just extract the content of the highlight and avoid utility words. Again, all prompts are in the video description. Once we are done, we simply click Extract Entries and wait for the AI to fetch our results. Once done, we can see that the Page Content column contains the actual highlight from our list. Also, the reference positions have been fetched as well and a short title has been generated. Now we simply need to click Save All Entries and wait. Since the Notion API has a rate limit, it can take some time. But as long as you don't close the window, it will save all of those entries that we extracted. Once done, we go back to our highlights database. Here we can see all of our book highlights, and for each a short title has been generated. The actual highlight is visible on the page, just like we told it to. Now we only need to link it to our sources database. So we select all entries, go to Media, and select our source. And that's basically it. You just repeat the same procedure for all of your books using the USave extension. So, again, save the sources to our source database and then the highlights to our highlights database. You don't have to rewrite any prompts as they can be saved within the extension. By the way, the small table field issue is fixed in the newest patch. Just a small tip. If you group the highlights database for sources, it is much easier to link the entries to your sources database. You can just select them again and link them to the right source. I will repeat this process for a few more books so you can see the final result. But in the end, it is just a few clicks once you have your prompts set up. And that's it, guys. This is how you have all of your book highlights neatly organized in your Notion database. In the next video, I will show you how to do the same with your podcast highlights. See you!